Hello, hello. Welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. I'm Karen Yankovich, and this episode that I'm recording today is episode 300 of this podcast. It's crazy to me that we've got 300 episodes, but I am grateful to you for continuing to come back and listen. Or if you're a new listener, you got lots of catching up to do, lots of back catalog you can listen to. So I just want to say that I'm so grateful to everyone that listens every single week, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are watching this on video or on YouTube or wherever, you might notice that I've got a new background. I moved recently and still kind of messing around with the office and the lighting. There's a window in the back behind me, probably not the best, but this is entrepreneurism at its finest, right? This is unfiltered, like the Entrepreneur Unfiltered show I do every week. It is, just doing what we're doing here. So messing with the lighting a little bit. Any suggestions, I'm happy to take them, right? This is not my strong suit, but you'll see this background start to develop over the next couple of weeks. For episode 300, I thought I would kind of go back to the heart of what this is all about. The name of the show is Good Girls Get Rich. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean that I think you need to be like well-behaved, whatever that means. I think that I believe that we have many of us come to this place we are at this moment in time with so much expertise, with so much credibility. And we know at this point in our lives what it is we love to do and what it is we hope we never have to do again. So I believe that when we stay really focused on what we are so good at, that's when the abundance comes into our lives, right? Hence, Good Girls Get Rich. That's what that means. And here's the thing. Nobody's going to think you're better than you say you are, right? So in order to really leverage and capitalize on the years of experience that you bring to this moment in time, it starts with you, right? It starts with you. And we've talked about so many things on this show, 300 episodes, right? We've talked about imposter syndrome. We've talked about these kinds of things before, but it bears repeating that you can and should create your personal brand, and the strength of that brand brings with it so much more abundance, right? And it's not just for entrepreneurs, by the way. So many of the people that I know listen to this show are in some kind of transition. Maybe you've been in corporate, maybe you were in the C-suite, now you're moving over to be a consultant. Maybe you were a doctor or a lawyer or a therapist, whatever, and you want to build coaching, or you want to write a book, or you want to do more speaking, right? All of these things require you a shift in that personal brand. But what I want to talk about today is starting wherever you are in that process, whether you've already made that transition or whether you are thinking about making that transition. Today is the day to start strengthening your brand. Today's that day, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, today. Okay. So, I believe, we'll use the C-suite as an example. If that doesn't apply to you, insert what does apply to you, right? If you were a doctor or an attorney or whatever, just insert that. We'll use C-suite today because it just for ease of consistency as I talk through this, right? But I believe that many of us spend so much time building our business brand, and corporations as well, right? So much time building their corporate brand. And when we overlook the importance of the personal brand as you're building your business brand, you're weakening the business brand. But when you strengthen the personal brand of the people in your C-suite, of the most important people in your company, whether you're, a Fortune 100 company or you're, one or two person entrepreneur company, when you strengthen your personal brand, it immediately strengthens your business brand. Right. And it might be one of the most powerful branding efforts your company can make. And listen, this matters more now than ever, because trust in corporations is shifting. Trust in businesses is shifting. Trust in coaching is shifting. People prefer to connect human to human with people over faceless businesses, right? And that's where this is becoming more and more important in these times that we're living in right now. right? So there's a statistics, Edelman Trust Barometer has a statistic that says 93% of consumers are more likely to buy from a company if the CEO publicly shares their values. Now, I can personally relate to that, right? I can personally relate to that. In the world that we live in right now, it's important to me that I know the values of the company, right? There's companies out there that are disbanding their diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, right? I'm not interested in supporting those companies. I'm interested in supporting the companies that still value diversity, equity, and inclusion practices and still lean into them and are still honoring them, right? So to me, we need to do that. Now, if we had this conversation 20 years ago, we'd probably not be saying this. But at this moment in time, right, your personal brand starts with your values. And it's okay to talk about them. Will you maybe lose some business? You might. You might. And I may have lost some business just by saying what I just said, right? I don't care, because what I'm hoping is it's going to attract. I'm not looking to go out and beat people over the head to work with me. I'm looking to attract the exact right person, right? I'm looking to attract people who also believe in the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? So what we know is that consumers and businesses and even employees trust people more than the company logo, right? Think about Richard Branson and Virgo, or Sarah Blakely and Spanx, right? Like these, they're leaders, but they're brands in and of themselves, and their influence extends beyond their businesses. And that needs to be the same for you. And so if you're in the C-suite, let's say you're like the CMO or the CFO of a Fortune 100, you're like probably thinking like, Karen, what? I don't make Spanx, right? Like what is my brand? But this is important, right? Maybe you want to speak. Maybe you want to have a microphone in your hand and you want to be a speaker for your company, for the position that makes you a more valuable employee for your company, right? And people want to bring speakers to their stages that have a brand that they can resonate with, and that's strong, and that is, kick ass, and that is really showing up in a big way, right? I mean, Howard Schultz in Starbucks, right? His personal brand of ethical leadership directly shapes Starbucks' social impact branding, right? That's what I want for you. Here's the other thing. Your personal brand humanizes your business, right? Maybe you wrote a book, and that's a humanized thing in and of itself, right? Unless it's like textbooky. But if you're a coach or a consultant, or again, a professional, or in the C-suite, when our leaders are showing up authentically, the company itself feels more relatable, more trustworthy, and it makes it easier for people to invest in because they're feeling more relatable and more trustworthy, right? Make sense? So not only does again, we're talking about C-suites here, right? Insert whatever that looks like for you. A strong C-suite reputation not only brings in more clients because there's more trust, but it also helps you retain employees, right? It's just all the way around. The strength of the personal brands are so, so, so important. The bottom line here is people don't just buy the products, right? They buy into stories. They buy leadership, right? Think about like Tim Cook versus Steve Jobs, right? Both of them had personal brands, but different approaches, right? Steve Jobs' vision shaped Apple's early successes, but Tim Cook's leadership expanded it into the socially responsible and inclusive company that we see more today, right? So it's not, yes, we might be buying Apple products, but what's important to us is the leaders behind those products. Right. So if you're in the C-suite, you need to speak up about industry trends. You need to speak up with insights, leadership insights, right? What's important to you, or even personal struggles, right? Because that builds deeper trust. I mentioned a little bit earlier, Entrepreneurs Unfiltered, every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, at least at the time that I'm recording this, I'm live on LinkedIn with a series. There's 3 other women in this series that we've been doing. We've been doing it for a couple months now. And the reason we want it to be unfiltered is because we share our personal struggles there. Because if I've had that struggle, or Renee's had that struggle, or Jess or Deb have had that struggles, probably one of you listening has as well, right? So when you share that, and again, that all is incorporated in your personal brand. When you share those struggles, and it's not all like standing in front of Bentleys and acting like, pretending you have billions of dollars, it builds deeper trust, right? And that's all part of your personal brand. And again, this is important whether you are a solopreneur or whether you are in the C-suite of a Fortune 100 company. It's important for you and for your personal success. And when when you focus on that, again, it immediately elevates everything around you. It helps your company and helps you retain top talent, right? Because people want to work with leaders that they can admire. And that they can relate to. So you want to have these you want to have these you want to have a way to share this so that people can connect with you, right? And that's why even when we're talking about your LinkedIn profile, I don't want you to be just putting it like a resume. I want it to be about your brand. I want you to incorporate your values onto your LinkedIn profile, right? There's another statistic. Glassdoor shared this statistic. 83% of employees prefer to work for a company that executives are active on social media. Listen, I am not asking you to post 1,000 times on Facebook, but if you're hanging out on LinkedIn, be active there. Build your network. We know how important the people we connect with are, right? Engage there every now and then. Put a half hour, a couple times a week on your calendar to engage on your LinkedIn profile, because it helps your company bring the right talent through the doors, right? Because the leaders' voices shape the company culture. I want to talk about PR now, because you know that that's important to the work that I've been doing lately. A strong C-suite executive, insert your, what works for you there, incorporates free PR into their brand. What does that mean? First of all, the media naturally covers executive thought leaders, right? Because it brings attention to their company, but only if they know you exist, right? There's so many ways that you can incorporate free publicity into what you do day in and day out, right? Interviews on podcasts. Every other podcast episode that I do, I interview somebody, right? There's so many podcasts looking for people to interview. You can be one of those people, right? It immediately elevates your credibility. And then the media will naturally want to cover you more because they know that you have a voice and they've understood your voice. They know if your voice is aligned with their messaging, and that they want you on their show, and that brings attention to you and your company. Right? Think about somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? His personal brand directly fuels VaynerMedia and VaynerMedia's success, right? So social media, when you're using, like, back to the C-suite executive that engages on LinkedIn, if they share that they were interviewed on Good Girls Get Rich, right? And they tag me and they type in Good Girls Get Rich, then I'm engaged in that conversation. And now we are organically engaging our network. And we're impacting public perception of all of us, both of us, right? This is what increases your sales and increases your business growth. Listen, I have this like crazy right brain, left brain thing going on, right? And my left brain wants the math to add. I want math to math, right? And I wish I could sit here and tell you that I know if you post 3 times a week and you say this, this, and this, and you connect with 4 people, then that's going to equal 1 sale. I don't have that math. But what I do know is that when you show up authentically and you continue to build relationships authentically and powerfully and you're showing up as, and as if you're peers with the most influential people in your industry, the business follows every single time. Because when a customer feels connected or feels like they know a CEO or executive, they are more likely to trust and invest in you, right? Like, don't we all kind of feel like someday we're going to be sitting under Oprah's tree talking to her about something, right? Like, it's not going to happen. She's probably not going to knock on our door, but she's got this brand that makes us feel like we can hang out with her. And that's carefully crafted, and you can do the same thing. Right? We feel, and I'm speaking for myself here. Maybe you don't agree with me on this, but I feel emotionally connected to a lot of what Oprah does, right? I feel emotionally connected to that. So what happens with this thought leadership that is so popular now, the content leads to higher conversion rates because people buy from businesses that they feel aligned to. Right? And this is all incorporated in your personal brand and why you need to take control of it. I will say that often I get people say to me, but God, Karen, like, I don't want to be visible, right? I don't want to be too visible, right? What if I say the wrong thing? What if my company doesn't like what I say? Listen, you are who you are, right? Like I said in the beginning, when I talked about my commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, maybe I'm going to lose a couple clients that way. I don't care, because I believe when I put out that beacon, that lighthouse, that light out to the world of what it is that I do and who it is that I do it for, it's going to bring to me the exact right people. So don't worry about saying the wrong thing, because guess what? You are going to say the wrong thing, right? You are. Like, just get over that. You're going to say the wrong thing at some point, right? it takes a little bit of that of courage to get over that. Do I really want to be that visible? So start small, right? A couple LinkedIn posts, maybe if you're in that C-suite, some internal company updates, some podcast guest appearances, right? That these are easy ways to kind of tiptoe into this. And if you're thinking now, I just don't have time for this, Karen, then repurpose some things. You probably already have things. Maybe you've done talks that, or have been recorded. There's so many AI tools right now that you can just upload the talk to and it'll break it into clips for you. And you can pop it into LinkedIn, right? Team meetings, memos that you've created, right? All of these things can be done. And and ideally they're not being done by you, right? If you are still the one and only to your brand, then, you're going to have to figure that out. But then we probably need to talk, because I want you to have support so that you can be showing up in a bigger way, right? And in a way that allows you to be reaching more people, right? So, I just want to touch for a second on the personal versus corporate messages. You don't see a lot. I don't do a lot of personal stuff. Like most people know, I have a bunch of kids, a bunch of grandkids, but you don't really see pictures of them a lot on social, because I respect my kids and my grandkids' privacy. Right. And I heard something recently, or maybe a year or two ago, about somebody who was posting a lot about her kids when they were little. And when the kids got old enough to throw their name in a Google search, they were like, why the heck do I have 100,000 things coming up about me all the time? Right? Like, who said you could talk about me all the time when I was 2 years old? And that really hit me hard. Right. So I'm sharing that to say, you get to decide. You get to decide. You get to decide what's too personal. And, but however, you might see me posting pictures of a vacation, or, a lot of pictures of the beach. If you know me, if you know, right? So I do think that you want to incorporate your values. You want to incorporate some of your hobbies and what you do, because I do think that connection is important. But you get to decide what is too personal. Right. So focus on that intersection. Focus on the intersection of what the industries, what's important to your industry, what your company or your personal mission statement is, and what your personal values are. All right. So let me talk for a second just about a couple of quick steps that can help you get there. First of all, I want to take a quick second and tell you that if you've not grabbed it yet, I have a brand new free checklist that I created, and it's a LinkedIn for PR checklist, and it's 30 tips to use LinkedIn to build your PR presence. So I talked about that a few minutes ago. If building more PR is something that intrigues you, but you haven't really figured out how to start with that yet, then you want to grab it. You can go to linkedinforpr.com, and that'll get you right to the checklist, and I'll drop it in the show notes as well. But grab it. If you get one little tip from that, it's definitely going to be worth your while, right? So a couple of steps to build that personal brand, whether you are in the C-suite, ready to leave the C-suite, or, building your own brand as a consultant or doctor or lawyer, or whatever works for you. First of all, you have to have some clarity, right? What's your brand identity? What do you want to be known for? Right? What do you want to be known for? You need to be present on social media, right? Not everywhere. Please don't be everywhere. But I do think it's important you're on LinkedIn. I think that that's where conversations are happening in this crazy world that we're in right now. It's, February 2025 when this is getting released. Who knows what's happening with social media platforms, but LinkedIn seems to always be the steady one, right? So I say, continue to build your presence there, continue to be present, always be in the feed. Doesn't mean you have to post a lot. In fact, you post a couple times a week, you're probably going to always be in the feed, and engage with your audience, right? If you're engaging with your audience on LinkedIn, your employees, your clients, your partners, right? These people love when you engage authentically with them. It pops their stuff up. If you're building that PR presence, engage with the journalists that you want to be having conversations with, because that's what they want. Because whenever you engage with them, it pops their content to the top, right? And now you're serving them, not pitching them. All good stuff, right? Leverage your thought leadership. Write some articles. Maybe you want to speak at some events. It can be local Chamber of Commerce events. It could be national or international conferences, whatever you do, right? Whatever speaks to you. And be on podcasts. Get interviewed on podcasts. There's so many of them. And it immediately elevates your credibility, because when somebody throws my name into a Google search, feel free to do this, like 10 or 20 pages come up. Right. And it's all the podcasts and the media that I've had, all of which, by the way, I wish I could tell you Oprah came and knocked on my door. She hasn't yet. You have to go out and look for it. Right. And that's part of that LinkedIn for PR checklist that I talked about earlier. You want to grab that. And then you want to be consistent and you want to be authentic. Don't just post once and say, well, I posted last month and nothing happened. No. show up regularly. Show up regularly. Post a couple times a week. Engage with your audience consistently. And these are the things that will continue to keep you in the feed and help you build that brand that is going to change everything for you. Let me just repeat those 5 steps again. Clarify your brand identity. Be present on social media. Engage with your audience. Leverage thought leadership. Be authentic and consistent. As we kind of wrap this, I want to just reiterate and really emphasize this branding for you, this personal branding initiative that I'm asking you to do here. It is not an optional strategy if you want to have success in the new era of marketing that we're dealing with, right? It's a business growth accelerator. It's not optional. If you're looking at just, retire in a week and sit on the beach, then maybe you don't need to do this. But if you have a month or a year or 10 years or 20 years or 50 years ahead of you, you need to be doing this. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of time. I am so busy that I shouldn't say that. I don't want to be so busy, right? So it's important to me that I build ease into all of the strategies that I teach. So I want the same for you, right? I want you to be able to spend time with your loved ones and not be stuck behind your computer posting a billion times a week, right? So definitely, if you're an entrepreneur or a consultant or a business leader or in your C-suite, start thinking today about your personal brand. If we're not connected yet on LinkedIn, make sure we are. DM me on LinkedIn, or better yet, grab a link to this. You can go to KarenYankovich.com/300. That's crazy. KarenYankovich.com/300. And that will, you can share that on your LinkedIn and tag me so I see it, and let me know what you think about all of this. Let me know your point of view on all of this. That's really helpful to me. Okay. DM me if you want to know what it looks like to get some support. DM me if you can't find that checklist. Karen, LinkedIn for PR.com should get you right there. But who knows what happens with the internet gremlins. And know that I am here for you. And we need to be here for each other. I think as we step into 2025 and we don't even know what the heck is in front of us, we need to be there for each other. So I am here for you. I believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that when we are supporting each other and we're rising the tide together, that is how we're going to be successful, be abundant, bring lots of profit and cash into our lives, into our business, so that whatever 2025, 2026 and beyond looks like for us, we can financially support that. That's my goal for myself, and that's my goal for you. I will see you back here next week with another episode of the Good Girls Get Rich podcast.